Hello and welcome to the Hammer Down podcast. This is going to be episode 1. We're here on the Highline Media channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Tyler Snider, joined by Alan Kundman. We'll be doing these podcasts, hopefully recording them every Monday night, getting them out Tuesday or Wednesday for you guys. So try and keep it between 15 to 20, 30 minutes in that range. Just kind of break down past week of NASCAR events and just kind of talk about everything in the world of NASCAR, break down some news that we get throughout the weekend, and break down some races. So, Alan, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everybody, welcome to the Hammer Down podcast. Like Tyler was saying, we're going to recap the previous week's race. This week, I guess we're just going to start with the Busch Light Clash, being that it was the first race of the season. And we'll also go over, we'll highlight a little bit of our league races, also Highline Racing League. We race those every Thursday night. One eye racing, so we'll go over that a little bit. But I think tonight we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna review the Busch Light Clash out there at the LA Coliseum, and then we'll preview the upcoming Daytona 500 this coming Sunday.
I did forget to mention that. Yeah, we will try and throw in a segment every week about our league racing. Me and Alan are teammates, so we just finished our Daytona race last Thursday. We had Roberto Ramirez came home the winner of that race. I want to say I finished 8th or 9th. I know Alan got caught up in a wreck, so we'll move past that one. Next week, or I guess the next race after this goes out, will be at the Nashville Super Speedway. So looking forward to that, getting the season kicked off, getting it rolling in week 2. So anyway, you just want to go ahead. We'll talk about the Clash out at the Coliseum. Obviously, the first time the sports had ever done anything like that. I honestly I saw a few mixed reviews about it, more than I expected, but I personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great event.
Yeah, NASCAR got this whole deal put together. For those of you who don't know, the LA Coliseum out there in Los Angeles, they are the home of the USC Trojans. So that's their football field they play on every year. And NASCAR came up, made this agreement, this deal to build a racetrack on the field. So they built it fairly quickly. And I think everybody had mixed reviews about it, mixed emotions at first. There's no way that 40 cars can fit on a track this small. We didn't know what NASCAR was going to do, so they come up with a format. We had 4 heat races with 2 LCQs. Then we started the main event, the Clash with 23 cars, and I mean at the end of the day, I was happy, especially with these new cars. They're composite bodies, so they can take a beating. We all saw that during the Clash. Yeah, I mean, I was happy with the outcome. NASCAR did a really good job keeping the event flowing. There wasn't a lot of waiting around in between heat races. They would get done with heat race 1, go to commercial, come back. They're running pace laps for heat race 2. So they did a good job with that. We had the concerts in between. We had Pitbull, Ice Cube. That was really up the winner. So it seems like he's got a thing for these special events, going back to the Bristol Dirt Race last year.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Logano, like you said, he got something for these special events, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I really thought it was a great event. I think you just kind of had to go into it with the mindset that, look, this is going to be an event. This is more to draw eyes to the sport, and I think it did a great job of that. I know TV ratings had over 4 million viewers, brought a whole lot of eyes, a lot of positive attention. And like you said, they did a great job building the track. I think it only took them a month or 2. and it seems like now a week later it's already almost completely torn down. So just all in all, obviously there's some little stuff that everybody's gonna nitpick. Could do better next time, but first time doing the event, I think they killed it, did an awesome job. So I was really happy with the clash in itself and the cars, like you said. They were able to lean on each other quite a bit. Something you didn't see with the last car as much. Um, Originally, I was pretty concerned actually with both Reddick and Briscoe braking in the same lap. They both dumped the clutch, but NASCAR already went ahead and addressed that issue and seems to have a fix for it. So that's very promising. It did seem like we had a few guys make contact with the wall, kind of tear some suspension pieces up pretty easily. So still slight concerns with some of the durability of some of these parts, but it's a brand new car, so you're gonna have that kind of stuff. So I'm still very excited about the season. I think these cars are gonna be great, put on great racing, and be fun to watch these guys lean on each other a little bit when we get to some smaller tracks.
Yeah, and talking about the mechanical failures that Tyler Reddick and Chase Briscoe and I believe it was one other, that they had at the Clash. Everything is new this year. It's not just the body of the car. It's not just the way they look, anything like that. Everything is new. They have transaxles now. They have bigger wheels. They have one lug nut, or a locking lug. Is what I've heard it be referenced as. So I think a lot of that is the failures that they had was just the new parts. There's no drive shaft anymore. It's what's called a prop shaft now because they have a transaxle. So I think that's what Reddick and Briscoe's issues were. Plus, running on a track that small, I doubt they got out of second gear.
Yeah,
So running that low of a gear and you know putting high temperatures and stress on the transaxle, I think that's what led to the failure for those two. But overall, great race. I'm a traditionalist. The Busch Light Clash has always run to Daytona. I don't like change, but you got to deal with it. So I wasn't crazy about the idea at first, but after seeing that race last weekend, honestly, I hope they go back next year. I know they're talking about going back to the Coliseum. There's also talk about the Clash maybe going international, maybe going over to England or something, or who knows, maybe go back to Japan. I think they were over there in '97 or '98.
yep.
So I guess we'll see later this year whenever they announce the plans for next year's Clash.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm very much, especially when it comes to speed weeks. I'm always living here in Central Florida. I typically go to a lot of speed weeks, so I'm very much don't mess with my speed weeks. Leave the whole week alone. Um, but no, I think the Clash kind of lost its excitement running at Daytona, so they had to make a change. And I think they nailed it. They did a great job. Not much more you can ask for. It's a short track race. The parts failures, like you said, they were putting extreme temperatures. We're not going to run on a quarter mile again this year. So, obviously, there's still a few concerns, but no, I think all in all, it's been great. Start to this. The Clash was great, so I think I think NASCAR's done a good job, and like you said, going international too. That's going to open a lot of doors now. We could put a racetrack in a lot of places we would have never thought before.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that you could build a racetrack on top of a football field? I mean,
Yeah, I would have
a,
never guessed
a,
that.
a lot of us know Bowman Gray Stadium is a racetrack built around a football field, but it's not built on top of the football field.
Yeah,
So that was that it was interesting for sure. They're talking about after the race. They were talking about other football stadiums that they could build tracks on and maybe race at next year. But you know what the best part is of them racing the Clash at the Coliseum this year?
what is that?
We didn't we didn't tear up 16 or 17 race cars. Daytona.
That's
That
true.
I'm pretty sure these teams were wanting to use those cars for the Daytona 500. So I think all in all, I don't know. They maybe tore up three or four cars badly. So that was one good thing that came out of it.
Well, that's another thing too. When you tear up a car at 70 or 80 miles an hour, or whatever they were going, it it's not as bad as tearing it up at 200 miles an hour. So I think the teams are actually happy about that.
Absolutely not. So
So, well, speaking of new stuff, you've got a list of a lot of the main drivers that are in new places for this season. We had a lot of change in the off season that I feel like actually slightly has been overlooked by all the stuff with this new car. So, if you want to go ahead and list off some of those guys I know that are new places, we can talk about them, give a breakdown, kind of predictions for how we think they'll do in their new spot.
yeah, so you said the word, Tyler, new. And that's going to be the drinking word this year because
For sure.
everything there are a lot of new things this year. You've got new drivers in the sport. You've got new faces to the Cup Series. Period. You've got new cars. You've got new wheels. You've got new everything. But to start it off, Trackhouse Racing. They are now a two-car team. Chip Ganassi Racing. They obviously wanted to get out of the Cup Series, so Trackhouse Racing bought a charter from Chip Ganassi, and that is going to move Ross Chastain to the one car with Trackhouse. So I think that's a good move for them. I think it'll be good for Daniel Suarez to have a teammate again. I know that they can, they'll lean on each other for help throughout the season. Chastain, he's really aggressive, but he's a good driver too. So I think they'll both help each other out a lot, and I see Trackhouse getting a win this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think Trackhouse, they basically inherited everything from Chip Ganassi, so while it's technically a new spot for Ross Chastain, I kind of feel like it's going to be a little bit more of the same, just a different team name. But I definitely think it benefits Chastain and Suarez both, um, being able to kind of bounce ideas off each other. And I kind of get the feeling that those two guys have got a little bit different driving styles. Chastain seems to be pretty aggressive and go after it, and just go balls to the wall and throw it all out there. Suarez seems to be a little bit, I don't want to say smarter race car driver, but a little more laid back and calm and likes to take his time. So I think it works great for both of these two. I'm excited to see how well they work together. They both seem to be great guys, so I think it benefits everybody.
Yeah, and Justin Marks, he's raced in the Cup Series before, but he's a businessman. So is Pitbull, and we all know Justin Marks and Pitbull. They're co-owners of Trackhouse Racing, so they've got a lot of smart people over there. They know what they're doing. So I look for them to perform even better than what they did last year.
Yeah,
Um,
I expect them to take a step forward for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So on, Austin Cindric. He is moving up from the Xfinity series. He's staying with Team Penske. I know was it last year or maybe back in 2020, a lot of people, the word around the sport was Cindric was going to move up to the Cup Series and go to the 21 car with the Wood brothers. Still stay within that Penske family, but that's not the case. So Austin is going to the number two car with Team Penske, which means Brad Keselowski is not in the two car anymore. Um, but Austin, he'll have Jeremy Bullins as his crew chief this year. He had quite an eventful clash for his well, not even his first Cup Series race, but his first full time season Cup Series race, I guess you could say. Um, yeah, he'll be there. The good thing about Austin moving up this year is this car. This car is brand new to everybody, so everybody's on the equal feel about the car and everything. So he's going to be learning along with veterans like Kurt Busch and Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on Cindric. This car's built for road courses and short tracks. I think that's where he excels. So I expect him to run pretty well this year, actually. Even though he had a rough start at the Clash, he's in the flagship Penske car. So I expect him to run well. Speaking of the former, you mentioned him, Brad Keselowski, former driver of the two car. He's now gone over to Roush Fenway to form Roush Fenway Keselowski, or RFK. He'll be driving the six car over there. Um, we saw both. Neither of those guys made the Clash. I don't want to put too much weight on the Clash, but definitely not a good start for that team. I think it's going to take more than just Keselowski coming over there. I think they've got to put a lot of new faces in place there. They've been struggling for so long now. I like Chris Buescher in the 17. I just think they got to get a lot of new personnel in there.
Yeah, and yeah. I mean, you're right. Brad, he moved over to what is now RFK Racing. But Brad, he's a businessman also. He's owned a truck series team in the sport. And he did a lot of great things at Penske. So, and ever since he's been with RFK for what 3 months now, and he's already made a ton of changes over there. So I'm not going to say that it's going to happen immediately. It might not even happen this year altogether, but I see RFK bouncing back, um, climbing the ranks in the sport again because we all know Roush has kind of been on the decline the last 9 or 10 years. Um, but yeah, Brad, he's over there now. He's got Matt McCall as his crew chief. He was with Kurt Busch, I believe, last year. And his spotter, TJ Majors, he went over to RFK with him. So he'll have a familiar voice in his ear. And we all know TJ is probably the best spotter when it comes to Daytona and Talladega. And we all know how good Brad is at Daytona and Talladega. So if they do pull off a win this year, look out for it to be at one of those two tracks.
Yeah, he's got a great eye for talent. Obviously, you look at his truck team, all the crew chiefs and crew members that he put into the Xfinity ranks with Team Penske, and then I'm sure they moved on to the Cup Series, and then the drivers is really the main thing. I mean, think about the drivers come through there: Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe. I believe Daniel Hemrick drove for him at one point. So I mean, he knows what he's doing. I think if we give Keselowski some time over there, he'll be able to build this team, to a spot where they can compete for wins and then hopefully championships some point down the line.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I see that team climbing back up in the ranks again. Um, Sometime within the next, I'm going to say 3 years, 2 to 3 years. But moving on to the 10 car with Stewart Haas Racing. Not too many big changes there, but there is some news out of it. So Eric Almirola's crew chief, Mike Bugaravich, he is moving up to the performance director position at SHR. So Drew Blickensderfer is going to move over to the 10 and crew chief that car this year with Eric.
Blickett,
Mm,
did he come from the 14 or was he on the 34 last year? I know he was on the 34 for a while there.
yeah, he was with the 34. He
Okay.
won the Daytona 500 last year with Michael McDowell.
Okay, that's
So
that's what I thought.
th-
I think he's a great crew chief. Actually, him and McDowell did some great things together.
he is, and Drew worked with Eric before when Eric was in the 43 car over at Richard Petty Motorsports. So
Okay.
a
Yep.
little bit of a reunion with those two. Um, Eric Almirola hasn't really been, a big focus in the news in the all season, but Eric Almirola is retiring after this season.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like that's kind of been swept under the rug a little bit.
mhm. Yep. And then moving back over to Penske, Ryan Blaney's getting a new crew chief with Jonathan Hassler. So he'll have a new guy on top of the box this year, and hopefully, they can mesh well together, and Blaney can keep up that momentum that he really came upon late in the season last year.
This worries me a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Not not gonna hide my bias here. I am a Blaney fan. I do kind of feel like he's almost played third fiddle at Penske. This will be his third crew chief since he's been in the Cup Series. Todd Gordon retiring, not much control under that. I think those two were just kind of starting to find something. Obviously, his new crew chief, he took over at the end of last year for the 21. Seemed to help their performance a little bit. Hopefully they can perform, but just slightly worrying as a fan.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens. It seems like since Ryan has been in the Cup Series, he always starts off the seasons, kind of slow, but they really pick it up in the summertime. So with this new car, you never know. Everybody's equal right now. I don't think any team has an advantage, really on anything right now. So it could be that 12 car that jumps straight to the top coming out of Daytona this weekend, and they could ride that momentum for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
You never know. So we'll see. Um, Next on the list is Ryan Preece. So JTG Doherty Racing, they're going back to one car this year with Ricky Stenhouse in the 47. So Ryan Preece, he's got a couple things going on this season. So he is going to drive part time in the 15 car with Rick Ware Racing, who have now formed an alliance with Stewart Haas Racing, and with that, Ryan Preece will become a reserve driver for SHR. So if anything happens with Harvick, Almirola, Briscoe, or Cole Custer, Ryan's there to fill in if need be. So he's got a couple things going on this season. I think he's got a truck deal also.
yeah, he's gonna run a few races for DGR, I believe. So he's got a lot going on. I was honestly pretty skeptical of Ryan Preece early on in his career, but he's starting to show. I think he's a pretty talented race car driver. So hopefully he can put himself in a good opportunity and make the best of these opportunities he gets this year.
Yeah. So Colleague Racing, they're moving up full time in the Cup Series. They're going to have Justin Haley in the 31, and then they're going to have the 16 car, but that's going to be split up with three drivers between Noah Gragson, AJ Allmendinger, and Daniel Hemrick. Justin Haley, he was really, really fast. He showed up, um, put his name out there at the Clash last weekend. So everybody knew he was there. They knew who Colleague Racing was in the Cup Series. So I look for them to do some pretty good things this year.
Yeah, I expect a lot out of Justin Haley this year. I think he's been a pretty underrated driver. It's a great speedway racer. Obviously showed he's a pretty good short track racer too in the Clash. So I expect him to have a sneakily good season this year. 16 car, I almost kind of see it as a competition between Hemrick and Gregson. I know they've got a little bit of history, so I kind of see it as a competition between them two. Who could run better, maybe put themselves in an opportunity to get that car in the future.
Yeah, and I was thinking about it. It's kind of weird. They're going to be teammates in the Cup Series, but they're still quote unquote rivals in the Xfinity Series. With Hemrick moving on over to Colleague from JGR this year. They're not teammates in the Xfinity Series, but they are in the Cup Series. I thought that was a little bit of a weird situation.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting dynamic. See how those two get along.
Mhm. Yeah. And then we have another driver moving up from the Xfinity Series, Harrison Burton. He's going to be in the 21 Wood Brothers car with Matt DiBenedetto. He's going down to the Truck Series. He's going to drive full time in the 25 for Rackley War Racing. Um, I think I think it's a good move for Harrison. I honestly thought he was going to stay in the Toyota camp, but I feel like it fits in, he fits in well with the Wood brothers. Obviously, his family being right up the road from Stewart, Virginia, which is where the Wood brothers are based. So it's kind of like a family feel, I guess.
Yeah, he actually surprised me and ran pretty well at the Clash as well. So I definitely think Harrison Burton can surprise some people in that car this year.
And then just to round out this little list here, we have Ty Dillon. He's moving back up to the Cup Series. He's going to be driving the 42 car for Petty GMS Racing. Those two teams now have an alliance together. So he'll be in the 42, and then kind of like a an honorable mention, we've got NY Racing or New York Racing. We don't know yet. They're going to attempt the Daytona 500 with Greg Biffle. So the Biff is coming back.
It'll be
What do you
fun.
think about that?
That'll be fun. I honestly I started watching NASCAR full time like 2015-16 range, so I didn't really get to appreciate Greg Biffle as much. But go back and watch some of the races on YouTube. And from what I did get to see his career, I like Greg Biffle, so happy to see him get another shot.
Yeah, happy to see him come back. A couple years ago, he came back and ran a truck race for Kyle Busch. I believe it was down in Texas, and he
He,
ended up winning that
he
race.
dominated that
So
race, if I remember correctly.
sure did. Then a couple more. We've got Kurt Busch. He's moving from Chip Ganassi Racing in the one car. He's moving over to 2311 Racing. He's going to be in the 45.
That's big.
He's still, yeah, he brought Monster with him. Then I believe he's also going to have some sponsorship from Money Lion and Sirius XM this year.
Yep.
So really looking forward to seeing that Sirius XM car. They always have some good looking paint schemes out there on track. And then the last one I got is Kaz Grala. He is going to be in the number 50 for the Money Racing team with Floyd Mayweather. I know this team, talks about this team started about 2 years ago. I believe they were supposed to first race at Homestead in 19 or 20, but nothing ever came of it. But they're finally here. So got a crazy
Finally.
looking paint scheme too.
Yeah, it sounds like it's kind of just like a revival of Starcom racing, so I'm a little skeptical about how fast the car will be, but I think Kaz is a really good speedway racer. He raced his way into the 500 last year and seems to be a pretty good little road course racer as well, so be interesting to see how many races they attempt this year and if Kaz gets to drive some of those races for him.
Yeah. So there's a little rundown of the new faces and new places this year. Um, Tyler, you want to talk about this new car a little bit?
Yeah, I think we kind of like you touched on it earlier. Everything's brand new. We could spend a whole hour show. We could probably spend another whole hour show talking about all the new people and new places. Everything about this car is different. The way it handles, the way it drives, the way you set it up, the way it's built. That's the main difference. I mean, everybody's getting parts from the same place. Um, so I mean, it's going to be not quite a level playing field, obviously, because these big money teams are still going to have the best people, but the base level is going to be equal. Everybody's going to be getting parts, most of their parts and pieces from the same place.
Yeah, absolutely. And they made some changes with the way the car runs also. So now they don't have the standard 4 speed H pattern shifter anymore. They have a sequential 5 speed shifter, which I think is going to be pretty interesting on the road courses. Yeah, I, I don't know. We'll just have to see how that plays in with the road course races. Uh, but it's definitely, I think it's really going to change the way these races play out with this new shifter.
For sure.
And you know, got this transaxle also. but I think another big part is there's no more solid axle in the rear. They've got an independent rear suspension now, so there's going to be no more track bar adjustments or any of that with this new rear end suspension.
Yeah, the way you set these cars up is going to be completely foreign to a lot of these guys, I'm sure. I, I'm just really excited to see how this car handles on the big tracks, aero wise. Hopefully it's done what it's meant to do, and it'll eliminate some dirty air. Going back to what you said with this shifter, though, I'm kind of curious to see when we get on tracks like Auto Club. Some of these bigger tracks where you do or a Pocono where you do have to slow down quite a bit. Are they going to be running? Are they going to be shifting in the turns like at an Auto Club or a place where you wouldn't normally see them shift? Are they going to be able to run fifth gear the whole time? Are they going to kick it down to fourth, or are they going to run fourth gear and maybe tap it to fifth every so often? I think it'll just add another element of strategy to see what some of these guys do.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering the same thing. I guess it depends on how they have the setup with the gear ratio and all that. Um, Tracks like Auto Club and Vegas and like you said, Pocono, they could be downshifting from fifth to fourth. Going through the turns. I guess we'll just have to see. I guess it really all depends on what kind of RPMs they're turning at the end of the straightaway. Also,
Yeah, it'll. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see till we get to one of those tracks how it all plays out.
well, they're going to head out west to Auto Club in 2 weeks, so we'll find out very quick.
Yeah,
And then,
how that plays out.
yeah, I think the big thing though is NASCAR finally did what a lot of us fans have been wanting for for feels like years now. Is they gave us some more horsepower back. So,
Yes, finally. I think
um,
we finally this package looks like it's gonna resemble the Xfinity package. So that's good to see.
yeah, I think it's going to be very close. So, of course, all tracks except for Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, they're going back to a 670 horsepower with lesser downforce. Just from the videos we've seen from off-season testing, it looks like it's going to work out pretty good. Of course, we won't know until we get in the actual race here in the next 2 or 3 weeks when they go out west for Auto Club in Vegas. So,
Yeah, a lot of the drivers seem to be happy with it. Some drivers comparing it to like a 2005 Cup car, downforce wise. So I'm excited to see that. Hopefully, the smaller spoiler will clean up the air. And then another big component of this car is that smooth underbody. Hopefully, get some clean air and have these guys slip and slide a little bit around, searching for some mechanical grip over aero grip.
yeah. Speaking of the underside, the rear end of these cars look pretty crazy now with that rear air diffuser.
Yeah,
Looks pretty cool though.
yeah, I think it looks good. Be interesting to see how that plays out if you get hit in the rear, you back it into the wall. How important is that diffuser really? So I'm pretty excited to see how it all plays out. All this new stuff.
Yeah, yeah, me too. I think we all are. Well, we're moving on to it's race week.
Yep.
Cars are going to be on track tomorrow. I believe they're going to have their first practice at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. So we'll see how they look in the draft. We'll see if the two car tandem is going to come back or if they're going to continue pack racing. Um, but moving on into the race weekend, the past I believe 8 or 9 years, Hendrick Motorsports has either swept the front row or they've had at least one car on the front row most of the time on the pole. So we're going to make our picks for who's going to be on the front row this year.
I'll let you go ahead and go first.
All right. Well, I think even with the brand new car, the brand new everything, remember the word of the year is going to be new. I
Yeah.
think I think Hendrick Motorsports has some really good engineers over there. I believe they're going to show up at Daytona with the same speed that they do or that they have been for the last 8 or 9 years. Um, but for this year, I'm going to say it's going to be an all Hendrick front row. I believe it'll be. I believe Alex Bowman will grab the pole again, and I think probably Willie B will be sitting outside front row.
Well, he's taking the low-hanging fruit. I'm gonna have to take one. I'm gonna go with the defending champ, Kyle Larson. I think he's honestly got one of the best crew chiefs in the sport, in Cliff Daniels. I, I think he just finds a way to get the most speed out of that car. And my second pick is going to be a little unorthodox, but I'm going to actually go with Kurt Busch in the 45 car. Um, Toyota, in the past couple years, they've really been the only ones that seem to challenge um, the Hendrick cars on qualifying day. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say Kurt Busch's outside pole, and Kyle Larson takes the pole.
Couple good picks there. You can never go wrong with Kurt Busch. He's a veteran of the sport. He's won this Daytona 500 before, so he knows how to get around this place. He's always running up front. Toyota always shows up at speed, so some solid picks there.
Yeah, I don't expect Fords to have a lot of qualifying speed, but like we've seen quite a few years past here at Speed Weeks, I expect them to show up in the race.
Yeah, if the Penske cars and the Stewart Haas cars can get hooked up, they'll be up at the front in no time. They seem to kind of work together. Those two teams, they seem to kind of work together at these plate races. Well, they're not plate races anymore, but like I said earlier, I'm a traditionalist, and that's what I'm going to keep calling them.
Yeah, they're still plate races to me. So, um, moving on in the weekend, I guess the next event would technically be the duels, but we don't know who's going to be in what duel, so we're going to go to the truck race, make our selections for who we think is going to end up winning that race. I'll let you go ahead and go first.
So I'm going to go with another veteran here, that 88 truck of Matt Crafton. I've always liked Matt. He's been in the truck series for, God, 20 or 21 years now, it seems. Um, he's always been so close to winning this race at Daytona. A couple years ago, he was leading on the last lap, coming out of turn two. He got turned, ended up flipping, and the rest was history. So I'm going to go with Matt Crafton. I think he's going to finally get it done this year.
So I'm going to go with I feel like the obvious pick, the easy pick. I'm going to take the guy who probably should have won the championship last year. It's John Hunter Nemechek. I think he's got to be the championship favorite this year. He ran strong last year in this race, so probably gonna have one of the better trucks. So I'm gonna take John Hunter. Get it done.
Yeah, without a doubt, John Hunter's already a favorite for the championship. I believe he should have won it last year, but I believe at the beginning of that race in Phoenix, he ran into some trouble early, so that kind of diminished his hopes for the championship. So, yeah, I look for him to run good too.
All right, so moving on to the Saturday event, that'll be the NASCAR Xfinity Series. I think it's Beef. It's What's for Dinner 300 from Daytona. So a pretty good sized field. I believe we got close to 50 cars going down there to try and make that race. So qualifying day for the Xfinity Series will be definitely one to keep your eye on.
Yeah, definitely. My pick, I'm kind of torn here. As a lot of us know, if you watch the Xfinity Series religiously, just like the Cup Series, Junior Motorsports always runs good at Daytona. Um, Noah Gragson won it a couple years ago. Justin Allgaier's been so close. Regan Smith so close. A ton of guys who run for JRM. Um, but I'm torn. I'm torn between Allgaier and Gragson. I think Gragson might get the second one. I think Allgaier might get his first, but I think I'm gonna go with the 7 car Justin Allgaier this year.
Never a bad idea to bet against or bet with, I should say, the JRM guys. I'm gonna take another junior motorsports guy, the short track ace, Josh Berry. Um, he he ran very well last season, and he actually surprisingly ran very well in this race last season. So I think he got a close to a year under his belt driving these Xfinity cars last year. So I expect him to surprise a few people and get a win on a big track this year.
Yeah, Josh is. I've been following Josh for about 10 years now. I've seen him race a ton of times at my local short track, South Boston Speedway. I've always loved that guy. He's one of he's the roots, the NASCAR roots. He's just your ordinary local short track guy. We're going to be hearing a lot out of him this year. I think he's going to be an early favorite for the championship also. Um, so when we make these picks every week, don't be surprised if when a short track rolls around, you hear Josh Berry's name come out of one of our mouths.
Yeah, Josh Berry's a wheelman. I really like that guy. It's easy to pull for, so hopefully he gets it done and has some great success this year. So now on to the biggest race of the weekend, obviously the 500. Um, we'll start out with the back of the field. I guess we'll kind of go back to Thursday night for the duels. We've got, I believe, 6 teams not locked into the race, or 6 non-charter teams going down there. Excuse me. I got 4 open spots, so I guess we have our predictions. Who are the 2 cars you think won't make it, and why do you think they won't make it?
Uh, I'm going to go with that 27 car. I believe Jacques Villeneuve is going to be in the car this weekend,
Yep.
and JJ Yaley. Um, just with Hesselberg being a brand new team, uh, nobody really knows a whole lot about them. Um, and Jock, he's known for being a road course racer. I was surprised to see his name on the entry list for Daytona, but that is most world. So everybody wants to run there. Everybody wants to play Daytona. Um, and then JJ Yaley, that team. Uh, Same thing with Hesselberg. I just don't think that they have the experience and the resources quite yet. Um, JJ's been around for a long time. I like the guy. I just don't think luck is going to be on their side Thursday night.
Those are good picks. I'm gonna go with 2 cars that I actually would like to see in the field, but 2 cars that I don't think, unfortunately, are going to make the field. I'm going to go with the 44 of Greg Biffle and the 50 of Kaz Grala. I think those are 2 of the better drivers that are not locked in, but I just think those 2 teams are so new, so many hurdles with this car. NY Racing, I mean, we're looking at the week of, and it was just officially announced that Greg Biffle's going to be in the car, so seems like this deal kind of came together pretty late. Same with the 50. From what I can tell, it seems like it's kind of a revival of Starcom. And I don't think without a charter, I don't think Starcom would have made it into a whole lot of races. So unfortunately, those are 2 guys that I'd like to see in the race, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Any of these 6 cars could go home. We'll just have to tune in and find out Thursday night.
Yeah, for sure. So all right, so before we make our picks for the 500, I just had an idea. Let's go with who's kind of your underdog pick? Somebody that not a lot of people are looking at going into the weekend. Somebody that you think has a good shot to either win the race or get a top 10, top 5, and run better than a lot of us are expecting.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you threw me for a loop on that one.
I can go ahead if you want me to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was gonna go ahead and pick. I've really got 2 cars in my head here. The '77 of Landon Castle. He's driving that car for Spire Motorsports, he's just got a whole lot of experience running all different generations of cars, running the Xfinity cars, running these cars, Cup cars that is. I think he's an underrated driver. I think Spire is actually taking a decent step forward. Still don't expect him to be too competitive, but I do see them taking a step forward, and Landon's a smart guy. I think he'll hang around till the end and miss some wrecks and get himself a decent finish. And another guy that's always seems to be there at the end of these plate races somehow. I don't know how. That's David Reagan, being the 15 car for Rick Ware Racing. Obviously, they've kind of been the laughing stock, but they did very well with Ryan Preece, even making the Clash. So, and then you got a driver like David Reagan. I just think you always see him at the end of these plate races. So I think he's a great driver, and I think he does kind of the same things Lane Castle. He hangs around, misses some wrecks, and just runs smart and makes the race.
Yeah, no, those are two pretty good picks. Um, so one that I thought of just based off of his situation coming into this season. Um, it might sound a little crazy because it's an underdog coming from a top tier team, but I'm going to say Austin Cindric. He's a rookie in the Cup Series this year. I think a lot of people might overlook him just because he is a rookie. He just came up from the Xfinity Series, but he won at Daytona last year in the Xfinity Series, so obviously he knows how to get around this place. And he's got two great plate racing teammates with Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. Blaney obviously winning Daytona last year in the summer, and Logano, he's got tons of wins between Daytona and Talladega. So he's got two great teammates to lean on. So I'm going to go with Austin Cindric for mine.
That is not a bad pick at all. He's run pretty well in the Xfinity Series on these plate races, so I could definitely see that happening. All right, so finally we'll get to our Daytona 500 picks. I'll go ahead. I almost feel like I'm going out on a limb. This feels weird to say with the guy I'm about to pick, but I'm gonna pick Kyle Busch. I think he finally gets his Daytona 500 win. He's one of those guys that he's won, seems like just about everything else in the sport. He's kind of in that Tony Stewart category. He got 2 championships, hundreds of wins across all 3 series, and he just seems to have a good attitude about this year. Kind of almost the most relaxed and happiest I've seen Kyle Busch in a long time. So I expect him to have a really solid season, and I can see him finally getting that Daytona 500 win. So I'm gonna take Kyle Busch.
Yeah, you're right, Kyle. Seems like he seems like he's a different person this year. Even though we've only had one race, you can really tell that he likes this car, and he's really looking forward to the season. So I think it'd be good for the sport if Kyle did win the 500. I
Yeah,
know a lot of people don't like him. A lot of people won't like the fact that he does win the 500 if he does, but I think it'd be good for the sport.
yeah, he's definitely a polarizing figure. So it gets some people talking.
Yeah, definitely. Well, mine got a little. I don't know. I have it's a tough decision for me. But I think I might go with the 19 of Martin Truex Jr. He's had some bad luck at these plate races in years past. Came so close one year, side by side with Denny Hamlin right at the line.
Yep.
Of course, that was back when he was with Furniture Row. But he and Denny are teammates now. So Denny's a great plate racer. So I'm going to go with Truex. So I guess we're going with Joe Gibbs to win the 500 this year.
Yeah, I guess. I know I did a lot of talking up about the Fords running well, but yeah, it looks like we both got Gibbs. Um, Denny Hamlin's obviously a great plate racer, and Gibbs always seems to bring fast cars here, so takes a lot of aggression. Kyle Busch and Truex, they are definitely not afraid to go out there and make some moves. So see if our picks work out.
Yeah, we'll find out Sunday afternoon or Sunday night, whenever it ends.
Yeah.
Um, One last thing I wanted to go over is the races that we're going to this year. What do you plan on attending this year?
So at the moment, I know it's a few days before, but I'm still trying to sneak in, get into the duels. But I'm 100% going to the 500. Um, I will most, like 99% sure I'll be at the August race at Daytona, and then I'd like to sneak in a race in the summer, preferably like Bristol Dirt, or not Bristol Dirt, I'm sorry, Bristol Night Race, or maybe Coke 600, but we'll see how that goes. So hopefully we'll sneak in a race in the summer, but I will most definitely be at both Daytona races. What about you?
Yeah, so I'd love to get down to Daytona one year, maybe next year, maybe this summer. Who knows? We'll see. But me, I see the thing about it is I love where I live because I live here in Southside Virginia, so I'm 4 hours at the most from four tracks.
Yeah, you're in a great
Uh,
spot.
yeah, so Charlotte, Martinsville, Bristol, and Richmond. I always go to Richmond every year, but this year I'm probably going to skip out because they made both races day races this year, and I'm not a fan of day races at Richmond. They've always been night races. Going back to being a traditionalist, I like night races at Richmond, so I probably won't be going to Richmond this year. And plus, they moved the fall race out of the playoffs into the middle of August. And for those of you who know, it gets hot as hell here in Virginia in August.
Yeah.
So, but I will be going to both Martinsville races. I would like to try to go to the Bristol night race also. Went to the Bristol dirt race last year, um, but really want to get over there for the night race. Probably going to go to the 600 again this year. Um, and then I'd like to go to a new track I haven't been to. I've been thinking of maybe going to Pocono
Pocono
with
would
a couple
be
buddies.
a good race.
Yeah, yeah. I got a couple buddies who live in Pennsylvania, so the experience sounds fun. Not always been the best racing there, but might be different with this new car. So
Yeah.
might try to do Pocono, or maybe go down south and go to Darlington or something.
Oh,
But
Darlington is another one. That's definitely gonna be
yeah,
on the list.
yeah, but yeah, definitely Martinsville and the Coke 600. I'll be going to.
Yeah, I know we've been trying with some of our league guys to get a race for all of us to go to, so we'll see how that plays out. I did think Homestead is back in the playoffs this year. That's about a 4 or 5 hour ride for me. It's way down south, but that I haven't been there in a few years. It's a fun track to go to. I enjoy Homestead, so maybe I'll try and sneak over there. But we'll see how that all plays out. So next episode will be next Monday. Hopefully the 500. Well, hopefully it'll be next Monday. Hopefully the 500 doesn't get rained out. Been following the weather. Seems like it might be a little chilly. No rain, hopefully. So looks like we might be in good shape there. But yeah, we'll be breaking down the 500. Alan, you'll have to be breaking down Fox's coverage for me. I won't be watching on TV. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this first episode. I know we went way over on time. I think we're close to an hour, but we had a lot to cover in this first episode. Hopefully these other episodes will be a little bit shorter. But if you made it this far, just appreciate you listening. Appreciate Toby for letting us put this on the Highline Media channel. Hopefully we can get some guests in these coming weeks and have the show a little more organized as we work some of these bugs out. But appreciate you coming on and helping out with this thing, Alan.
Yeah, it's fun. It's going to be a great season. Um, I'm excited for tomorrow. Tomorrow we get to see cars on track.
Yes,
Like I
sir.
said, first practice is at 6, or excuse me, first practice is at 5 and goes until 6, and then they have another practice at 6:30 until 7:30. Both of those are going to be on Fox Sports 1. And then Wednesday night, they'll qualify for the front row and set the lineup for the dual races on Thursday. Of course, we'll have those Thursday night. And then Friday kicks off the season for the Truck Series.
Yeah, I'm excited. Can't wait. Off season is over. Time to put them next gen cars on track and get this season kicked off. It'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well,
So,
everybody, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. And next week, we'll, like Tyler said, we'll review the 500 and preview Auto Club.
yep. Appreciate everybody listening. Thanks, guys.